decision on marijuana. So technically, there can be 583 solutions to the marijuana, cannabis, whatever you want to call it, issues that we have. What could go wrong?
Yeah.
Okay? What could go wrong? I mean, come on. It seems perfectly plausible. Why did they do it this way? Because it wouldn't have passed if they didn't. It just wouldn't have passed it. So that's one of our issues right there. And I think Kathy talked about it when she talked about the unified front. Sure, everybody would like it to be consistent. But I can tell you this. Kern County is significantly different than Mendocino County. Take a look around down there. I'll tell you this though. They have a lot of land down there that when Philip Morris decides they want to plant marijuana, that might be a really good place down there if they have the water. And if they have the water is the real question. So let me stop for a second talking about marijuana. One of the big issues you have with marijuana is potency and purity, okay? So I refer to it as your grandfather's and grandmother's marijuana. In the old days, the purity of marijuana was, and when we talk purity, we're talking THC, okay? There's two things you're looking for in marijuana, either THC or CBDs. Everyone know what CBDs are?
Yes.
So CBDs are what's really, that's what's good, okay? The CBD can be made into a painkiller that there's a patent on it for how it's produced and its use. Who has the patent? The United States government. The same people who say there's no medical use to marijuana. They have a patent on how you produce CBDs. Are you kidding me? So, anyway, THC in the old days was approximately, if it got high, it was maybe 10%, many times less. That was the THC. So that was, playing around with it back in the, let's say, 80s, okay? And even before that. But then the really smart people got involved, and now just standard marijuana out there, without too much manipulation, is at around a THC level of approximately 30%, threefold. So folks that thought, well, the marijuana was, when I was an RA in college, UC Santa Barbara, there was some marijuana there. One kid had, I saw this glow coming out of his closet, and so what's going on there? You open it, it's tin foil lined, and there's this one marijuana plant. I said, no, you can't have that here. He says, well, you let everyone else have beer. And that was kind of the way you thought about it.
Yeah.
A beer, a marijuana joint, about the same, okay? But now all of a sudden we're talking 30% THC, now it's getting up there. But then we have the really smart people, and I'm not using that as a compliment, who also have decided to do the BHO, butane honey oil. Sometimes known as butane hash oil, sometimes just referred to as oil. On the market, BHO sells for $22,000 a pound currently. And what do you need to make BHO? Well, you need shape, so basically leaves. You don't need to have bud, but you could kind of crumble them up, put them in. You need a tube, some are this long, some are higher than I can reach. You stuff them full of marijuana and get it really tight in there. There's a screen on the bottom, sometimes two screens. You take butane cans, there's a nipple on the top, and you put the butane can in, and the butane is a solvent, okay? The solvent runs through, and it pulls the trichomes where the THC lives off, and it makes it go down, and within very short order, you start seeing this golden colored ooze start coming out, and it goes down, and they will send it through a cheesecloth, the strain, and they keep going down, And they finally, Pyrex, never advertised this, but Pyrex dishes are really good for this. I've never seen it not in a Pyrex dish, okay? So Pyrex is what they use. So it gets down there, and then when you find this, it looks like it's boiling as it sits in the Pyrex. It's what we call off-gassing. So the butane is coming out. They put it into ovens to help it off-gas even more. If they're really good, they have a Bogart, B-H-O-G-A-R-T, Bogart. The Bogarts, we seized one from one illegal lab, $45,000 for the Bogart. So once you get all this thing done, it kind of solidifies, it's gooey and the likes. THC content, what do you think?
90%. No.
Close to 90%. I've never seen 100%, but approximately 90%. I think the highest I've seen is around 94%. And that becomes a very dangerous drug at that point in time. And what do they're called dabs. They have a little dabber. And they put a little dabber either into a bong, you know, everyone knows bongs are. And they'll set it on fire and they'll smoke it. Or, you see the folks walking down the street with vape pens, right? They put a dab in there and they're vaping. So this is, to my standpoint, a public safety issue. And it's a public safety issue because, let's see, today is, what day of the week?
Monday.
Wow, already? Okay. So, just last week, we had a gentleman, and I use that loosely, who was in an apartment complex up in Willits, making his BHO. And what does butane do? It's heavier than air. It sinks down. What is normally low in apartments?
Water heaters.
Yes.
Water heaters, pilot lights, okay? Or these folks, you know, being rocket scientists that they are, they smoke a cigarette and they click their ashes, boom, off they go. And so this, the lady next door was burned. This man's in the burn hospital right now. He's going to go to prison, promise. But it's one of those things that I've told my board of supervisors, if you think you can make money off of marijuana, just draw the line at BHO labs. Because it's a blight on our landscape and it's a danger to our communities. People blow up. An attorney, my divorce attorney, had a rental house in Willits. And he had to rebuild it because the tenant blew the place up. So it's one of those things that we've had houses knocked off of foundations up in Kovlo. It is not a rarity. In the big city, Sacramento, had a whole apartment building go up in flames because one rocket scientist who watched a YouTube, because you see it on YouTube, you want to see some great explosions, watch YouTube. You'll see these folks just blow themselves up. They think they know what they're doing, and they don't. So let's talk really quickly about the history of marijuana, because it's important. Marijuana started, basically, you'll see there, we saw it in the Chinese Empire, way back when. And then it was always hanging out in India. It grew, it went through Iran, it was in the Middle East over there. And, okay, it was always kind of discussed in medical terms. Okay, medical. Okay, this is good. Well, who brings it to you, the Americas? Well, the Spanish did. Why did they bring marijuana? Anyone idea? Because they didn't know it as marijuana. They knew it as hemp. And the ships needed rope. And hemp was a major provider of what was needed for us in early America to have strong ropes. Now, the difference between hemp and marijuana is what? THC, almost nothing. It's, you know, in the old days, hemp and similar things were called ditchweed. Okay, that was a term they used to talk about, was ditchweed. But for the longest time, marijuana was probably one of the top agricultural products in the South until cotton, okay? And all of a sudden we decided, okay, well, this is all nice and dandy, but you know, we really need the cotton. And hemp was still good. I mean, we're still making ropes out of hemp. You'll see it even today. There's some places that, there used to be a store in Ukiah that had hemp clothing. It went out of business. How could that happen in Mendocino County, a hemp store going out of business? That's shocking to me. And the reason why is they couldn't smoke the clothing. Okay? That was the issue there. You know, so you know, there's ups and downs on everything. So what we have here is, you know, remember the patent medicine shows. Marijuana used to be into it, but to be honest with you, the cocaine, the opium and everything, those were part of the patent medicine shows that was more important. So as we move through, we have prohibition showing up, and all of a sudden alcohol is bad, and so what do people do? Well, some people turn to marijuana, and you know, there was a term, you know, I haven't heard it often, but there was a term called tea clubs that used to be in the big cities that was basically for people to go to for marijuana, basically a marijuana bar. So there were people, you know, the musicians in the 30s started doing, they were into marijuana, okay. Cab Calloway, Dizzy Gillespie, all those folks were pretty well known. Jimmy Dorsey, all folks were into marijuana because it brought out, as they said, their creative side. There's a great song on YouTube, you find it, it's Cab Calloway, probably 1937 or thereabouts, called The Reefer Man.
Oh.
Great song. I mean, you just gotta listen to it because it's good fun, okay, just good fun. So as we move forward, marijuana is seen as a medicine, and it was in the pharmacopoeia for a long time, but then all of a sudden, who got involved? The feds. The feds said, oh, this is not good for us. So they started, sometime after 1933, started saying, we're going to start knocking this down. They started keeping dossiers on the Cab Callaways, the Jimmy Dorseys, because they were somehow leading America to be drug dependent. And then in 1937, you see it there, the federal the marijuana tax law came in and said only for industrial or medical use. Well, they didn't do much medical. Industrial was the hemp. Okay. The government has been growing marijuana in the South for tests on marijuana for a long time. They still have it at one of the universities. When I was young in Ohio, I remember being taken out to a federal hydrological station, and there was, as far as you could see, this plant growing, and we were told it was marijuana that was being used by the federal government for testing. So, you know, I was kind of a wild kid. So I go up and I got some and put it in my pocket because I want to show my mom when I get home. And so when I get home and show my mom, holy heck, it all broke out. You know, the devil had come into my pocket and she had to get it out of there. So I was told never to bring the devil weed ever back again. Okay, I didn't. But marijuana, as you well know, became part of the beat generation, the beatniks. It also became part of the what we'll call the hip or hippie generation. San Francisco, California has always been big on it. But then you see we have a turning point in 1972 when the Attorney General decided to make it a Schedule I drug. So marijuana then becomes the same as heroin and cocaine. And they say there's absolutely no medical value to it. Remember who has that patent? So, as you look at it, there's some old posters here and stuff about marijuana. You know, it creates lust, crime, sodomy, all sorts of things. It's a vicious racket with your arms around children. So you see some of these things, but at the same time that they're making Schedule I, the president, Richard Nixon, says, hey, we should make this legal for everybody to use. Well, that's pretty well. That's pretty progressive, as they would say. But it didn't happen. In California, in 1913, we had the Poison Act passed. And the Poison Act said that basically, like Schedule 1, it was classified with opiates and with cocaine. So it was one of those things that even before the federal government said that it was really, really, really bad, California had said that. So we go forward a long way. We go up to 72. They tried to legalize marijuana, and you can see the split there. 2/3 say no, 1/3 say yes. So you're going to see here as we quickly go through this how it changes. George Moscone in San Francisco passes a law to downgrade more than an ounce of marijuana down from a misdemeanor, well, down from a wobbling felony to a misdemeanor. Wobblers are a felony charge that can be charged as a felony or a misdemeanor at the discretion of the district attorney. So he got rid of the wobbling felony and made it a misdemeanor. Was it a big deal? At the time it was. For me, it was one of those things that was part of my doing my job. Then we have in 1996, we have Prop 215 passes, and there you go. It's a closer vote, but basically 55.5 to 44.5, right in there. Prop 215 passes. Prop 215 allows medical marijuana in California. So, okay, this is good because it's in compliance with the federal passage that, okay, we can do that. But there was a LA Times editorial, and I put it up here if you see it. I'm sorry about the small lettering, but it's one of those things. LA Times editorial said, allowing marijuana use for virtually any medical condition is a huge loophole. Amen. That's the problem. Because when you looked at 215 originally, it talked about glaucoma. It talked about all sorts of things that everyone in this room would say, oh yeah, that's a serious condition. And if this addresses that, we're okay with that. Everyone will say that. So what do I get now? I had two young guys who, I think they were 20, both from Beverly Hills. They come up to where my neck of the woods is. They have recommendations from their own doctor in Beverly Hills. But there's a doctor in Upper Lake County. I don't mind using his name. It's Mylan Hopkins, because he and I don't get along. And they come up to see Dr. Hopkins because he gives recommendations for up to 19 pounds of marijuana and up to 99 plants. Now, does he do it once? No. So if you have one condition and you have a different condition and you have a different condition and you have a different condition, every one of you, no matter what your condition is going to get a recommendation that says up to 19 pounds and up to 99 plants. That's kind of like a lot. Okay? It's kind of like the doctor saying, I'll give you your first 1,000 Vicodin and we'll see if you need more later. But why the 99 plants there is really interesting, because what he recommends there is not a medical diagnosis. Why does he use the 99 plants? Because when it's 100 plants, the federal standards kick in. So he says you can have up to 99 plants. So what he's giving you is basically legal advice. Stay below 100. So these two young guys come up because they want, big. They immediately come over to Mendocino County because Mendocino County marijuana is better than Lake County marijuana. And they buy a bunch of marijuana and get caught. And so eventually what I did was I made them a deal. You go talk to the medical board, tell them about they said to me that each of them went in and spent 2 minutes each with Dr. Hopkins, and he reviewed none of their original primary physician records. And they paid their money, and off they go. I'm not sure that's what the voters had in mind when they talked 215. So he's on probation now from that incident because the medical board didn't look highly on it. Now, does that happen all the time? It doesn't. But it's one of those things, it's a problem with what's going on. The Attorney General at the time that 215 passed said, this is legal anarchy. And to a certain degree, it certainly was a mess. I'm not sure it was legal anarchy.